When I think of Ellie, I think of a happy, easygoing, funny, relaxed, cute, intelligent child.
He was everything a parent could want in a child. Ellie taught everyone around him what it means to do every single thing the best to your capabilities. He taught you things that you never in your wildest dreams thought you'd hear out of a 4, 5, 7, 10, 11-year-old.
She'll live till 121.
Das Leben ist 120, 120.
והמבורך יסבורך בכפל כפליים.
And he taught me more than anyone else in my life taught me.
He was a total joy. He had the most adorable curly hair. That was his whole personality, his cute curls. It was just who he was, a total and happy delight.
Ellie was born on a Friday. We had a very large Shalom Zachar that Friday night in our home.
And everything was just exciting.
It was overall everything that we wished for, hoped for, and had in our lives.
Yikarei Shmai B'Yisrael, Elimelech ben Malkiel, ben Menachem Mendel Malkiel, Yismacha v'Yitzicha.
Ellie was named after my grandfather, my mother's father. His name was Eli Melech Posner, known as Melech Posner. He's been through the Holocaust, and he always had a love for learning, a love for knowledge, and surrounding himself around Talmidei Chachamim. Devoted husband and father, a very kind human being. So much of this reflected what our Ellie was about. Ellie had a love for family trips, and look forward to seeing his cousins from out of town.
Ellie was in love with my father and my father-in-law, and every single time he could learn something from them, he did.
Shabbos was definitely his favorite day. We would have a lot of guests Friday night. His uncles, they were part of our life from way back. He would just chill with them, and he would schmooze, and he would laugh, and he was just a mature young adult. Going to shul with Malkiel was a big highlight for him. He loved seeing everyone, Shalom Aleichem.
Every single Shabbos, when we would time to go home after shul, we would look around. Ellie was never there. Ellie was always sitting in the Beis Medrash learning, whether it was on his own or whether he found someone older than him just to sit next to and learn.
I feel like with Ellie, what really struck us, and it will stick with us always, was when he was in school, about 1.5 years, 2. We were already able to see some signs that he had a love for learning, like a thirst. When he was a Shabbos Tati, it was a real joy for him. Loved being in the front of the room and answering as many questions as he could.
Ellie loved being in school. Ellie was loved by everyone in school, his friends in his class.
Even when he got his first sitter and his first chumash, his face would light up. This thirst of wanting to learn and Torah and knowledge, and not of a typical child. My father-in-law in particular was always blown away by his knowledge and what he picked up from all his learning.
He had a massive thirst for knowledge, and he needed to know every single thing possible to know. Ellie's favorite time of the year was Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuos, spending time in shul, spending time with family.
Ellie loved Sukkot, sitting in the sukkah, building the sukkah with his father, helping me decorate the sukkah, and just being with his cousins from out of town was just his joy. And then there was Simchas Torah, dancing in shul, lighting up and having that fun with his friends. He valued family, he valued his siblings. Ellie loved Sari and Ari so much.
Sari referred to Ellie, as we all did, as the king.
I had so much fun with my brother Ellie.
He would be compassionate to Sari when she came home from school. He would ask her how her day was. He cared about her. He was concerned about who she was friends with and who her teachers were. He had an interest.
Ari and Ellie were best friends. They played games together. They rode bikes around the block together.
We like to read books together.
And every single thing in between was done together.
I was Ellie's best friend.
He would be all excited if Ari would have the same Rebbe that he had. Oh, you're gonna love him. I learned so much that year. And they had a special bond, and Ari looked up to Ellie as his big brother.
He was the sweetest person I ever knew.
Ellie loved what he called Baby Jack.
Ellie was so excited when Jack was born. He was so excited at the bris. You know, he had a big smile on his face, just being there and loving the fact that he's going to be a big brother again.
You're just too cute. You're too cute. You're licking my headphones.
Every single second he was able to spend with him, he did. He always had him on his lap. He always wanted to FaceTime him. Ellie had an unbreakable bond with Basi, that he always looked up to her.
Ellie and I had a certain love and connection for each other, and he really respected me as a mother, and I respected him so much for being the good boy he was and the happy boy, and he gave me a lot of nachas.
I was closer with Ellie than I was with anyone else in my life aside from my wife, because of the many, many hours and days we spent together.
Ellie and Malkiel had a real bond, a special bond. It was his first son. Ellie looked up to everything Malkiel did and constantly asking questions on what he's doing. His daddy was everything to him, and he looked up to him and wanted to be like him. Ellie started having some stomach pains when he was about 6.5. And, we kind of didn't really think much of it and, went to the doctor, and they weren't that concerned. After Sukkot, Ellie was back in school and again started feeling stomach pains. And this time I was a little more concerned. I wasn't happy with the fact that he started losing weight. I kind of saw slowly him deteriorating. We went to Children's Hospital, and that's when they got the diagnosis that he had neuroblastoma.
Neuroblastoma is a cancer that begins generally in the adrenal glands. Many, many times it goes undetected.
It's a rare childhood cancer and something he was born with. I remember that meeting with the doctor and Malkiel sitting next to me and basically going into what the diagnosis means. I remember one thing echoing in my ears as she was speaking: yes, we can get through the 15 months of chemo, radiation, and stem cells, but there's a very good chance that he'll relapse. That even after his scans are clean, he can relapse again. And those words always came crashing into my head, and I always thought about it.
And we decided on day one, we're going to do everything and anything we can to get through it, and we're going to encourage each other and the other children. And Ellie, we're not going to worry about tomorrow, we're not going to worry about next week, we're going to worry about this hour.
And we will have a healthy child again, and that's what our thoughts were every day. When Ellie was diagnosed, I think he was almost relieved to know, we can actually do something and help me because of my pain. And we were sitting in the doctor's office. We wanted Ellie to hear what he had, and they said, Ellie, you have cancer. And he said, oh, cancer? Does that mean I'm gonna lose all my hair and be bald? And that was just like the first thing he said, and he was excited he wouldn't have to have any more haircuts, and he took it very lightly. And we never told him how aggressive and how intense the disease was. He didn't know.
Ellie had extreme love for all his siblings, his parents, grandparents, and especially his cousins.
Our family was so supportive, every family member, whether it means the ones from out of town. We're so thankful to have the family in LA we have. Reuven and Chevy constantly there every step of the way. Hannah Miriam, my sister's boys who were like siblings to my kids.
The 15-month treatment plan went nearly exactly as planned. Everything was perfect.
After he had several rounds of chemo, Eli was scheduled to have surgery in Sloan Kettering with the top surgeon. This is a surgery to remove the tumor in his stomach. Eli was 7 years old.
He had an extensive 11.5-hour surgery done.
And he had a week of recovery before we were on that plane back to LA. There was a lot of pain, a lot of healing, and then we would continue with radiation and a bone marrow transplant.
Generally, most kids take 30 to 45 days. Eli was out of the hospital in 23 days. Eli, being the champ that he is, did that.
Any opportunity we had that Eli was feeling good, we'd say, oh, we're going somewhere, we're doing something, we're going on a family trip. He had his favorite restaurant, Shiloh's. He would just dream about a good steak every so often. I would take him for lunch whenever he was in the mood.
Who are you sending it to?
That one, just for us to have, so I can look at.
Fine. Knock yourself out.
I would love and cherish those times together. One Purim, he decided he's going to go collecting for himself so he can purchase his own iPad. And whatever remaining money he gets, he's going to give to my father-in-law for his kollel for tzedakah. He was always had a cheshbon for everything. He used it to really learn, read encyclopedia, learn about different animals, any interest he had. He had every single medrash says, and he opened his own Twitter account, played all these cool games, and he wrote, I'm a cancer kid, fighting battles in the real world and the gaming world. This was something Eli wrote on his own, and he always looked forward to, as weak as he was, put on his white shirt for Shabbos and go to shul and sit at a table with our guests. It wasn't normal, it wasn't typical, it was mind-blowing. Eli did not know how serious his illness was. We tried to make very light of it. The doctors didn't necessarily agree with our method, and at some points they told us, maybe you should be more honest with him. And I said, what's the point? He's a child. Let him be happy. Let him have a goal and say, next year I'm going to be back in school. I'm getting better. The chemo's helping me. Why would we let him think any other way?
I'm davening for Bobby Hellman to have refuah shalema ben Hera.
We went on to further treatments, and upon completion, it was the happiest day in his life.
Eli was in remission. We told Eli the news, and he was so excited, and he called my parents and he called my in-laws, and he said, I'm cancer-free. And he had a big smile, and it was a true excitement. At that point, I was pregnant with Jack, and we were very excited. We were going to have another baby. And then came another set of scans where I thought everything was good, but Malkiel wanted to protect me and didn't want to tell me yet.
I got the phone call from his doctor that said there is a new mass. It was 4 days until they had other tests complete. I didn't want to tell her that. I didn't want anyone to know, but it was just the reality of what was going on at that time. I told her. It was a night I'll never forget.
And he slowly broke the news to me that Eli had relapsed and the disease returned.
We went back into Children's Hospital the following day. We were promised Eli would never, ever see remission. And we said, we don't care. And I spoke to every single doctor. We did get a very decent response, and we did new treatments after that.
After 2-3 months, they did the scans again, and they saw a tremendous amount of the disease was already gone. And we were hopeful. We really, truly were hopeful. And that summer, we decided to send Eli to Camp Simcha. It was intense, our goodbyes. This is 3 weeks of my child who's sick and is going to be given into the hands of this camp. He made friends there.
Eli penned a phrase during learning groups in Camp Simcha without being asked, without being told to say anything at the end. For the sake of Torah.
For the sake of Torah!
and he really enjoyed that summer in camp.
During Ellie's illness, he was twice privileged to go to Miami to be part of the Chai Lifeline Marathon. It was arranged by a really close friend of ours, and Ellie was pushed in a stroller by another good friend of ours, along with a large group of people that specifically went to Miami to run in Ellie's honor.
There is a program called Make-A-Wish, which is something every child with cancer has an opportunity to choose a wish that they want to do. And of course, Ellie's wish was to go to Israel and daven by the Kosel, see tzaddikim, go to his grandfather's kever, but that was not on the list. So the next thing he wanted to do was swim with the dolphins in Hawaii, and boy, do we have the most incredible memories. Whale watching. One of our friends, the uncles, purchased for Ellie a wetsuit. Ellie wore it and was able to stay warm in it and go swimming in the ocean and enjoy his siblings. And we have a tremendous amount of memories of that Hawaii trip.
Ellie always had a thirst and a wanting and a wish to go to Eretz Yisrael.
He was going to Israel with his father. The excitement he had of being at the Kosel and davening was insane. He put a kvittel on the wall and he wrote a name and he wrote other people that he wanted to daven for and himself.
We continued at that point to a wedding where Ellie really actually enjoyed himself. He tried his best to dance when he was able to.
He went to daven by his grandparents' kfarim, my grandparents, Malkiel's grandparents.
Our trip continued after that to getting brachas from different rabbis, and we walked into a cheder in Yerushalayim. Every single kid knew who he was, said hello to him.
And he had an incredible time with amazing memories.
A highlight of Ellie's life was going to Palm Springs. Ellie would get in his wetsuit to keep him warm in the 120 degrees and get in that water and swim around, even though he was against every single doctor's orders. He enjoyed it, and we wanted him to have it, and he did it.
Purim 2015, one of the times when Ellie wasn't feeling that good, Rachnitz family hosted a concert in the streets here.
The next song I want dedicated to Eli by himself.
And Ellie always enjoyed this. He enjoyed music, he enjoyed having a good time, and even as much pain as he was in at that time, he sat on stage. One of the singers sang a beautiful song of Rifa'enu to Ellie. And Ellie then sat through the whole concert, enjoyed the time, and we were happy that Ellie had that time to enjoy. I remember when Ellie used to have to take painful shots or a medication he didn't want to take, which was tasting bad. And he would say, "Ma, I just need 5 minutes." I never had to second guess him. He kept his word. We had a chat, a family chat on WhatsApp. It would be me, Malkiel, and Ellie. If he was in pain and he needed medication, he would say, "In pain." And then we would say, "Okay, what would you say from 1 to 10 was your pain?" And he would be very truthful as to what number his pain was. Every so often he would say, he would joke to us, I'll take a little bit of medication. And he knew he didn't really need it for pain, but just to relax him. But he would never lie about it. He would be so brutally honest that I need just the medication to help me relax. That has taught me truth and emes and how to keep your word.
Ellie, upon being told that he relapsed again after going through all these multiple different treatments, in his own words said to the doctor, "I am willing to go through every single thing I've gone through once again, all the pain, if you promise me this time, it's actually going to cure me." The doctor told him, "We're going to continue doing every single thing we can, as much as you want, and we're going to honor everything you want to do." We knew at that time this condition was about as grave as it can get, and they pretty much for all purposes were out of treatment plans, which at that time I picked myself up and I flew to Australia to a once every other year conference on neuroblastoma, and I spoke to every single doctor. We did get new treatments after that. Unfortunately, the treatments were not successful because of the extent of brain disease that was involved. After Ellie passed, it was naturally a very, very hard hour, moment, day, and it's been ever since. But that day, I chose to allow my wife to see Ellie after. It was a face that you could see of exactly the way he was prior to getting sick. He was calm, he was peaceful. He almost had a smile on his face, like this is where I want to be, and I'm happy where I am. And the same evening that he passed away, in the Chevra Kadisha fridge, where I went and spent some time with Ellie, I told him at that point how much we loved him, how much we're going to miss him, and how he has to daven for ourselves and all the other kids that are going through similar things that he went through.
Ellie's legacy is always going to be remembered as a child who loved knowledge, loved learning.
Full of life, full of joy, funny, witty, with it.
The love he had for his parents, Rabbeim, his friends and cousins. Had that dazzling smile, who was so heroic and happy throughout the most trying times, and keeping strong and not letting the illness get in his way of his day-to-day life and the kindness he had in him. I feel like that is a tremendous lesson for me and everyone around us who knew Ellie. He was literally a little grown man. In a short 11 years, what he accomplished and how he moved mountains and changed people's lives.
We had hundreds of friends from literally around the world, with many, many organizations around the world that came together to get us through this crisis, and for that, we'll be forever indebted.
And to Malkiel, my rock, seeing him so strong, seeing him next to Ellie, talking to Ellie, soothing Ellie, Ellie looking up to him, kept me going and helped me throughout this tremendous trying time.
At many, many points with Ellie in the hospital, whenever we would spend time together, there was always that moment that he would say, I want to spend some time with Mom, and I would get the boot.
I wake up every day now and I think to myself, what would Ellie want of me? Just like he was happy every day, he would want me to be happy.
He would want us to move on, to continue with our family, to continue with our friends, to continue with life, but always having him in mind and a special place in our soul, which we do every second of every single day.
Ari will always remember, and Sari as well. They'll always have these memories of their strong, heroic brother. I think Hashem gives me the strength to be able to go on, and that gives me that menucha and that peace and understanding that he is in the best place.
Jack, where's Ellie?
Somewhere.
Ellie will always be remembered as a tzaddik, a precious soul, who in his short 11 years accomplished more than many do in a lifetime. He pulled the community together to daven. All over the world, many who didn't know Ellie prayed and did acts of kindness for him. We have no doubt in our minds that Ellie's neshama is near the Kisei HaKavod, with his light shining down on us as we yearn every day for the coming of Mashiach.
Ellie will try to do justice to the kind of brother you were in these few short lines. Although we could talk forever about the love, the care, and all the fun times. We all know how much you loved us, and in turn we all adored you. You filled our house with happiness, even though physically there was a lot you couldn't do.
When we came home from school, you would sweetly and gently ask us about our day, making us feel special and loved. You always knew what to say. Like typical siblings, we loved to play games and just chat. If fighting didn't exist in our house, you were way too good for that.
When you were not in the hospital, you treasured the times we could spend with the king. Having you around was the best, and whenever you needed, we would gladly bring. From day one, baby Jack had a special place in your heart. You played with him and enjoyed him, and his life you played a big part.
Thank you for being the best brother we could ever have asked for. You'll always be part of our family and we'll cherish the memories of you forevermore.
This tale began 11 years ago at Mayeli's bris. A proud mother and father holding their first baby boy. It was pure bliss. Eli grew and blossomed into an adorable child, lovable and good-looking, active but not too wild. And then he started school soaking in all the knowledge and Torah learning. He had a thirst for truth, a soul that was always yearning. He sat at the Seder with Zaidi and Bubby so dear, participating in every step and sweet divrei Torah he would share. Although Eli had hardships and many pain-filled years, he didn't lose his special spark. He let smiles replace the tears. His beloved parents were his anchor throughout this rough ordeal. So strong and courageous, you inspired the world, Basi and Malkiel. Hashem, look down from heaven and see how these two parents have championed for their son's cause, rising above all obstacles, displaying strength that defies nature's laws. In this chus, bring us Mashiach, whom we are all longing for, and then we will all be together with my Eli again, and suffering will be no more. Eli, your memory in our minds will forever shine, and your precious legacy will last until the very end of time.